Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar, 5 Do's and Don'ts for Year-End Appeals. My name is Alex. I'll be a webinar producer today. And with less than 7 years to go in the year, it's time to put your year-end appeal into full gear. Whether you have your fundraising campaigns underway or are looking for ways to engage new donors during this season of giving, it's not too late to amplify your year-end fundraising efforts. So we hope you enjoy today's presentation, and for your reference, we'll send a recording as well as slides to all of today's registrants via email after the webinar ends. We also want to encourage your participation today. Please submit any questions you may have throughout the presentation into the questions box on your control panel, and we'll have some time at the end of the webinar for a Q&A session with our experts. So speaking of experts, let me go ahead and introduce them. We're going to first hear from Salvador Brigman, the founder of the popular blog CrowdCrux, which has been cited by the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, CNN, and more. He helps entrepreneurs and nonprofits raise money on crowdfunding platforms and fundraising websites. Last year, he actually helped over 700,000 individuals raise money from the crowd through his blog, podcast, YouTube channel, forum, online courses, and books. He's written the highly popular book, Nonprofit Crowdfunding Explained. Okay, next up, we'll hear from Christy Noel, who is VP of Digital Marketing Services here at Mobile Cause. Christy advises and guides Mobile Cause customers with digital fundraising and donor engagement strategies and has empowered countless customers to accelerate their efforts through the help of nonprofit technology. That being said, we have an action-packed agenda for you today. Our speakers are going to cover year-end giving statistics, the science behind online giving, peer-to-peer fundraising, and then finally 5 do's and don'ts for year-end appeals. So before we dive into things, I have a quick poll here I'm going to launch. And I'm curious, go ahead and make a selection directly on your screen. How many communication touch points did you send for your last year-end giving campaign? So think back to 2017 here. And again, how many communication touch points did you send out for your last year-end giving campaign? I'll leave this poll open for another 15 seconds or so as we get the votes streaming in here. Excellent. Going once, going twice. All right, and I'm going to close this poll out, and I'll share the results with everybody. So kind of a cool curve here. We see a handful of folks said 0, 1 was kind of the least popular option, then 2, 3 consecutively larger, up to 4, where 30% of our voters said 4 or more. Very interesting stuff. So with this, I'm going to pass things over to Sal. And Sal, what are your thoughts on the results of this poll?
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly say this is a lot better than many of the nonprofits out there. Just based on the stats, 27.6 make 0 touches, and about 60% of nonprofits make between 1 and 2 touches when it comes to a year-end appeal. So we're going to actually show you a blueprint for doing this even better. And if you actually have never done any kind of touch points at all, sort of how to get started there. So thank you for the introduction. Yes, I'm a blogger. I do a podcast and also a YouTube channel. And sort of all of my content is centered around bringing nonprofits techniques and strategies and things they can use out there in the marketplace to actually raise money and to raise funds. Because I think just sort of historically, the nonprofit fundraising arena has been very archaic and outdated. Direct mail, using TV, using some of the older mediums, whereas now a lot of the ways that our attentions are sort of streaming is more online. It's way more to social media, and a lot of those demographics that we once would sort of like laugh at, like millennials, are now actually aging in the job market, are gaining more wealth and gaining more income, and they're actually those people that you want to reach out to. So we're going to show you a few effective ways to do that today, and also some tips and do's and don'ts for your year-end appeal. So first thing I want to do getting started here is to draw your attention to some of the stats when it comes to nonprofit crowdfunding here. So this slide is going to give you an overview of some of the year-end giving stats. And there are a few numbers that I sort of want to draw your attention to here. The first is that last year, 2017, Giving Tuesday raised $274 million online. I'm sure you're all familiar with Giving Tuesday. It's basically the Tuesday that happens after Thanksgiving. It's very closely coming upon us. And I think it's just insane that that level of attention, that level of funding happened in one day. But it's not just Giving Tuesday. When you talk about December, 30% of all online giving happens in December. Think about that. Like for your entire online giving, and also annual giving and all the giving initiatives you're doing throughout the year, literally 30% of your revenue for your nonprofit is going to come in December and in the holiday months. I think it's one of those things where you can't afford to not pay attention to this time period. I think the fact that you're now on this webinar and sort of discovering some of the tips we're going to share with you, I think that's going to play a lot in the next month and so. The other thing here, I think that this is really something that's not just happening with your nonprofit. This is happening all over the world. For whatever reason, during the holiday months, people are in more of a prime state to actually make giving appeals, to actually listen to what some of those causes are out there. You can see some of the statistics, and about 69% of the United States population gives and supports 4.5 causes on average. And when you're in these December months, when you're in November, people's eyes and their ears are wide open, and they're more willing to actually listen to new appeals and new potential initiatives. And wouldn't it be cool to be a part of that 4.5 statistic of people who support actually nonprofits? So I think it'd be really cool to have your nonprofit part of there. The other thing here that I want to draw your attention to is that, historically, TV and radio and mail and sort of the older traditional mediums were how you would actually get in front of, your audience and get in front of people that might be interested in your cause. But nowadays, it's only about 9%. 9% in terms of why and what inspires donors to give to a nonprofit. Instead, about 29% of donors say that social media is actually what gets them to give. So what I'm almost trying to share with you with this slide is that I think that the tides are changing a little bit. I think that also when it comes to the next month, this is really going to be a critical period for you and for your nonprofit. And I want to share with you a study that goes into the core reason why people give money online, and then also share with you how to make use of some of those findings. So just going to advance the slide here a second. So this is a scientific study, and I want you to bear with me here. Science is not my favorite subject necessarily in school, but I'm going to try to explain it as simply and as easily as possible. So basically, in this scientific study, there were research participants, and the scientists, the researchers, they hooked these participants up to a whole different array of machines to basically analyze how they were feeling. So things like fMRI, which is functional magnetic resonance imaging. They also took blood samples. They also measured respiration and skin conductance. And basically, in the study, they were able to measure the emotions that the participants were feeling. And then they did something. The scientists wanted to basically catalog and see the effect of media on online giving. So what they did was they showed the participants a series of 2 videos. So the first video was all based around a story. And in this story, it's a very sad story where a child, unfortunately, who's a really young child, he has come down with a horrible disease, brain cancer. And he did a few different treatments, and thankfully the cancer was a little bit in remission. But unbeknownst to him, these treatments actually did not work. So the story begins with a father looking through the window in his kitchen and looking out at his son playing in the yard, playing in the fall leaves, having a good time, playing with balls, and his child is alight and he's laughing and having a really good time. And the father looks at his child and is almost a little bit torn because unbeknownst to him, the child, the father knows that Ben, the child, is unfortunately going to die in the next 3 to 6 months. And it's one of the most horrible things for any father to realize or to know. And Ben doesn't know this, and he's having a great time and just playing in the leaves. And his father knows that he owes it to Ben to actually put on a good face. But how can you do that with that knowledge? And he feels so many conflicting emotions. And he also feels, looking out there at his child, just the transience of all life, the fact that we're all here for a very limited amount of time, and we just have to spend time with the people that we love and have as many good times as possible. And so as the story was unfolding in this video that the researchers were showing the participants, it sort of came to be that the emotions that the father was feeling were almost one with the child. He was feeling almost like he himself was dying, the father, whereas, there's actually the child who's going through this experience. It was this beautiful moment, and also a tragic moment. So that was one of the videos, video A, that was shown. And that caused a ton of emotions that people were feeling. So the first thing that it made people feel is cortisol. And cortisol is basically a stress hormone. And this hormone basically will focus your attention on something important, and it tends to with feelings of distress. So whenever you're stressed or you're distressed, you have cortisol into your blood. The other thing that it did was it released a hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin is usually associated with care, connection, and empathy. So essentially, the people who were exposed to video number A and that really tragic story were feeling emotions. The number one, they were feeling stress because they could relate with the situation, they could understand it, and they also felt empathy for the child and the incredible bond that his father and the child had. Now, they did something with video B that was a little bit different. Basically, with video B, it was just a day in the life of this father and his son, and no context was given, no backstory was given. There really wasn't any kind of character development whatsoever. And people who were watching video B were just kind of looking around the waiting room. They were kind of like, okay, this isn't that interesting. They weren't really entertained in any way. And they just kind of were like, okay, so like what's next? And their attention was all over the place. They weren't really attentive to the video. And when they actually measured the emotions, there was literally no emotion. Like it was like a flat line. So basically people who watched video B were extremely bored and not attentive at all. So why do I tell you that story? Well, because the incredible thing happened next was these scientists took this finding, the fact that emotions can be caused through storytelling, and also how can we then apply that to online giving? So what they did was, after video A, the compelling story, they then asked people, would you like to donate to a charity that helps kids who are ill, or kids who have brain cancer, or kids who suffer from cancer in many different forms? And overwhelmingly, the people who watched video A and had lots of oxytocin and cortisol in their blood, they were willing to give money to charity like that. Like very quickly, very fast decision. It was almost like a no-brainer. So the researchers were sort of like scratching their head and like, that's really interesting. I wonder if we could actually predict this. So they did another round of testing. And what they did this time was they showed, video A and video B, but this time with video A at the end of it, before asking that question, would you give money to help with children, child illness or cancer or anything like that? They actually made a prediction. The researchers, based on the amount of cortisol in your blood and the amount of oxytocin in your blood, the emotions you were feeling, they made a prediction whether or not you would give money as a result of seeing this compelling story. And with 80% accuracy, they could predict whether or not you would donate money. And I think that's a phenomenal finding and just incredible research there. So what I want to share with you now is how to apply this to your own strategy and incorporate some of these elements of storytelling into your own ask. Because as I've shown and demonstrated right now, storytelling evokes emotions. Emotions evoke that feeling of empathy, a little bit of feeling of stress. And by feeling those emotions, your donors are almost primed to be in a receptive state to give money to your nonprofit and to help that sorely needed cause and that demographic, that group of people. So of all the different ways, I've been in this business for 6 years now. I got started in 2012, and I've studied so many ways that you can, charitable giving happens and online fundraising happens and these different things. And the number way that sort of checks off all of the boxes in terms of storytelling, in terms of evoking emotion, in terms of reaching out to millennials and using social media and all these things, the number one way that you can do this is through peer-to-peer fundraising. So if you're not familiar, peer-to-peer fundraising is basically when you can put up an online crowdfunding page, a peer-to-peer fundraising page, and people that are participating in this campaign can go out there and they can raise money from their social network. So that we'll talk and we'll get more into the details of this a little bit later. But you can incorporate this into your year-end giving appeal. And the great thing about a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign is that you can put a video on there, you can put images on there, you can showcase and tell the story of the people that you're helping. You can go more into the statistics and the team members that you have that are actually helping this. What are people's money going to go to? Peer-to-peer fundraising is really, really powerful because it sort of checks all these different boxes. And in addition, it sort of, I guess, riles everyone in terms of your staff, your board members, your corporate partners. It rallies them around a singular vision, and they're working towards that vision. So I want to go into some of the, basically the things that are comprised of a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign and sort of what makes up that campaign right now. So when it comes to peer-to-peer fundraising, I'm just going to have the slide advance here real quick. So there we go. When it comes to peer-to-peer fundraising, you can kind of think of it as like a launch pad, and there are different elements that you need in place in order to make this whole thing work. So the first thing that you need to set a fundraiser peer-to-peer. This could be the making at the end of the year. This could be for a particular initiative. You have to set a fundraising goal, and that goal could be like your entire goal as an organization. It could be an individual goal to get the people participating to set their own goals. You have to have some kind of a fundraising goal, and that's sort of number one. It creates a tremendous sense of momentum as you get closer and closer towards that goal. And number two, it sort of sets a shared vision for everyone who's participating in this campaign, and you can rally around and you can celebrate as you're getting closer and closer towards that goal. That's a hallmark of peer-to-peer fundraising. Number two, you need to set a timeline of, hey, we're going to be raising money with a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign for 30 days or for 45 days or for 60 days. Whatever that timeline is, you have to be crystal clear on that. And here's the reason. A lot of the times I have readers, I have students come up to me and be like, hey, Sal, like, why don't we just raise money on like an ongoing basis? Like, why don't we just raise money year round? And I say that definitely is one strategy. But the problem with that is that it doesn't create that emotion of urgency. Now, I'm sure everyone else, is, myself included, is totally guilty of putting things off and being like, oh, yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll get to that the next week. When things are not urgent, they're not on our to-do list, really. They're maybe number 10, but they're not number 1, number 2, or number 3. When you have a timeline and specifically a deadline, it rallies people around your peer-to-peer fundraiser, and it gets them to take action because they can only get their donation in for the next 30 days. They won't be able to help the cause after that. Having a timeline is a great way to create urgency among your donors, but it's also awesome to do around your team because your team, we also all have internal projects that are just difficult to complete. And it seems like we're working on the same projects for months and months, and we're behind on the timeline. When you have a launch date that you're going to be launching this peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, you be rest assured all of your teammates are working hard to sort of hit that launch date, and that deadline as well creates a sense of urgency. And the final thing that sort of ties all of this together when it comes to peer-to-peer fundraising, when it comes to the reason why people are willing to give money, the reason why people are willing to listen to you. We talked about those 4.5 causes that an average individual will give money to in the United States. If you want to be as a part of that statistic in one of that 4.5 causes that people care about, you have to get their attention. You have to make them care. You have to make them empathize with your donors. And you do that with the images that you have on your campaign page, with your compelling video, with the stories that you tell on social media, getting people to check out your campaign page. And the really cool thing too is this is sort of a very professional presentation that for the people that are participating with you, they can easily send a link to your campaign to one of their friends. Their friends can hop on, they can check out your page, they can watch your video, and they can then be influenced by that. And they can start to feel, oh man, that's a really difficult injustice in the world. Like someone should do something. Oh, okay, if we give $15, it's going to have this impact. or they feel empathy, maybe because their lives are similar, they felt similar emotions to people in your target demographic that you're trying to help. And because they feel that empathy and they want to help, they then there on that page can easily donate. They can text to donate. There's so many different ways to do that. So this is what I think is one of the most important things that should be on your radar. And we'll also be going into some of the do's and the don'ts when it comes to that. So I just wanted to sort of bring this all together by just reading this one quote that I have right here for you guys. The fundamentals of fundraising come down to the relationships that you're building and offering a relationship that has mutual benefits. So a lot of the times we think, oh, it'd be great if people gave me money. Well, yeah, that's true, but it's very me-centric, and I think it's very egocentric, honestly. The question is, how can we not only get people to give us money, but how can we give a great experience for them? How can we thank them? How can we show appreciation? How can we make it so that this isn't just like, we're asking or begging or pleading. We're giving the people an experience where they walk away from this charity, or they walk away from this cause, and they feel like they're doing something good in the world. They feel like their money is actually helping people based on the results you're sharing. They feel like what they're doing is actually making them a better person or connecting with their faith or whatever it is. And it's up to you as a nonprofit to deliver those emotions and to deliver those feelings by being appreciative, by being thankful, and making it an overall experience. So I'm going to hand it off to our next presenter. And Christy is going to go into some of the do's and the don'ts when it comes to hosting your annual, the end of the year campaign.
Awesome. Salvador, thank you for that message. It was interesting and helpful. And indeed, Christy, all yours. Take it away.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today to share with you some of our proven strategies and tactics for a successful year-end appeal. And these are the exact same tactics and strategies the Mobile Cause Digital Marketing Services team uses when we create campaigns for our clients. So these aren't theories or we think these will work, recommendations, but actually are proven practices that we implement for our clients to set them up for success. And how do I know that they're going to work? Well, our clients that we work with on the Digital Marketing Services team, which is essentially the Mobile Cause in-house fundraising consulting division, our clients raise 3 to 4 times more than the Mobile Cause customers that do not utilize our services. So we've got a good track record and really excited to show you what we do with our clients. So if you're ready, let's dive in and get to work on your year-end giving appeal. Do number 1, segment your donors. So not all donors are the same. So please do not send your communications treating them like they are. And I know that this might be asking a lot at the end of the year because you're tired, you might be burnt out, you're completely overwhelmed with your to-do list, both at work and at home. But please don't shortcut this one. It's somewhat of a lazy approach to the year-end communications because this is too important of a giving time for you to make any shortcuts. And similar to spending New Year's Eve in Las Vegas, you'll probably end up regretting it later. So it is a little bit more work to segment your list and then create a separate communication plan. But trust me, it will pay off in your results. Because when you address your donor or your supporter in a way in which he or she feels you understand them, that they're part of the organization, they're ultimately going to give more. So, Christy, what do you mean by segmenting your donors? So what I mean is whatever criteria works for you, whether that's how much money they gave or the campaign that they participated in the past, or if they're a recurring donor, segment them and create different ways to communicate them. So somebody who has been a long-term donor, they've been a volunteer, they've been a supporter, they know your organization, they are going to get a much different message from you than somebody who just donated from a peer-to-peer campaign. That person that donated to that peer-to-peer campaign, they probably gave because their friend asked them to. They probably don't even know much about your organization. If you're lucky, maybe they know your name, but other than that, they probably don't know very much. So there's an opportunity for you to send another appeal to them, but make it more about who you are, what you do, what you're about. Those long-term donors, you're going to get to much more detail about what's going to happen in 2019 that's going to be different, or how you're going to make your program bigger or stronger. So you can get a lot more specific to those long-term donors. You can also segment, and I highly recommend you segment from a giving level. So when you give your suggested donations, you don't want to have one form that everybody goes to with a suggested amount of $50 when you know you have donors who regularly give you $500. That ultimately could be just leaving money on the table, right? So I recommend creating about 3 different giving pages, each one with different suggested donation amounts, and then splitting your donor list into 3 different lists based on the historic giving level. And then you'll drive your donors to that particular giving page through a link or a text to give in your communications. So it could look the same. All of them are going to look exactly the same. Just those suggested donation amounts might be different. And ultimately, you're going to find that you will get a boost in your donations. We did this with one of our clients, and the lower end of the suggested donation amounts, their average is about $55 a donation. On their mid-level giving page, it was an average of about $125 per donation. So you can see just by segmenting and having different suggested donation amounts, you can realize more money at the end of your campaign. The nice thing is MobileCause has a feature called Create Segment, and we will help you filter and identify your donors based upon the criteria you request. So whether that's the campaign previously they participated in, or a specific giving page that you want to target, recurring donors, amounts above $100 or below $1,000, whatever you're looking for, specific dates. Maybe you want to look for people who donated at the beginning of 2019 but haven't donated since. Maybe you have a little more of a warm-up. Anyway, one of the nice features of our platform is that we can help you segment and create a distribution list. Number 2 of the 5 do's and don'ts is do focus your year-end appeal as a year-end appeal. Seems obvious, but maybe you're thinking, well, I've got a newsletter going out at the end of the year, so I'll put a donate button on that. Really encourage you to focus solely on the year-end appeal. Newsletters are great for sharing information about your organization. Donor profiles are terrific for recognizing your supporters. Annual reports are wonderful for providing a review of the past 365 days. None of these, however, should be used as your year-end giving campaign. If you are one of the organizations that raise 25 to 50% of your annual fund in your year-end appeal, it's not going to come through a newsletter. You really need a dedicated, targeted year-end appeal. So create a campaign calendar of all your different communication types and the dates you want to set them, and then craft their messages, and that are going to be focused on your year-end appeal. So what kind of things can you include? You'll want to talk about your goal to meet the end of your year. Maybe you need a certain amount to fund your entire 2019 program, or how much you need to support 25% more people in the new year. Whatever it is that your organization needs for 2019 and why you're doing this year-end appeal, make sure that you include that in your communications. Sal did a beautiful job of emphasizing strong storytelling so that there's an emotional connection. So absolutely craft your story so you have that emotional tug that propels donors to give. You can create a mini case study or a day in the life of somebody that you support. Maybe it's a transformational story of your work. It doesn't have to be long, but you need to have more than we're a nonprofit 501(c)(3) and I'm asking for money. You really want to put that face, that heart and soul to the story as you're communicating your year-end appeal. And please, if you have a match component, be sure to include that. That always helps boost donations if people know that it's being matched in some way. If you don't have a board match or a supporter match, always remind people to submit their donations to their employer through their employee matching program so that you benefit from their match program. Do number 3, do run a multi-channel campaign. Don't rely on only one type of communication channel. Maybe direct mail is great for you, maybe email. That's great. I encourage you to continue to do those, but then build in other channels as well. So social, text, phone calls, postcards, whatever it is that you have implemented in the past, then continue to do that. You will get a much higher response rate, and the studies show that this is true if you have a multi-channel approach than you will if you have only one channel or even two. And that's because we have so many messages being sent to us on a daily basis between all of those that I told you, right? Your email, text, social media. It's hard to keep up with it all. You can't expect all of your donors to see everything that you put out there. In fact, email has about a 20% open rate. You'd probably be pretty excited if you had that. For Facebook, your donors are going to see about 20% of what could potentially be on their newsfeed. So that's a lot of messages that they're not getting through. So you're going to have to use all of the weapons in your arsenal to make sure that some of those messages do get through. And if you are seen, then you have the boosting the opportunity to give. So you have this multiple channel campaign. What do I include in that? Lots of great things. Live video. So many people give after watching a heartfelt video about how they can make things better for others. That goes with your storytelling. I can watch a video of somebody who's been impacted by a donation or by the organization. I can have them tell the story about how their life was transformed. The executive director could talk about the plans for 2019 and where all these funds are going to be used. And if you do it live, it's even better. But even for the social media algorithms, you're going to be posted and shown that video continuously, even when it's not live, and it will get a higher placement in the algorithms to be seen again. And 80% of the people remember things by seeing them. So it's a much more effective way to have a video than to, say, have to read or hear somebody say something. Text messaging. Texting, our phones are strapped to our hips. We all know that. 98% open rate. So text is a great method to get people to open it and see it, a message. And you can link to your donation page. You can talk about a video and link to the video. You can link to your newsletter. So you can use text as a way to warm up your audience and your donors, and then closer to New Year's Eve or the end of year campaign, you can include your ask and a link to the donation page. Social media, you've heard it before. Social media is the key to raising awareness. 47% of supporters learn about a nonprofit from social media. So social media is just that, it's social, and that's how friends are hearing about other great organizations. So be on social media. You do not have to do it at the same cadence as you're going to do it for Giving Tuesday, which is quite high, but you do have to have a steady stream of social media posts and then increase those as close as you get to the New Year's Eve. How often should you send emails? Send emails at least twice between December 27th and December 30th, and at least once on New Year's Eve. That studies show that's the best number or frequency to get a response rate. You do not have to send an email every day. You don't have to send multiple. Just get 2 between the 27th and 30th and 1 on the 31st. Every link in any of your appeal should go directly to your giving page. Don't link to your website's homepage. Don't link to your Facebook page or your Instagram. Go directly to your giving page. Make it really easy for your donors to find you and to be able to find that donation and giving page so they can give. You don't want to give them any reasons to get distracted. In addition, and this is one where I see that a lot of organizations don't do this as well, and it's a simple one, is to make your donation link or button on your homepage very visible, very big, very bold. People don't always link when they're reading the communication, whether on social media, whether it's an email, whether it's a direct mail piece. They don't often just stop what they're doing right then to give. They're going to register that they saw it. They're going to remember that it's getting close to the end of the year. They need to make their donation. So what are they going to do? They're going to Google you, or they'll go directly to your homepage, and they're going to try and donate there. So if you make it too difficult for them to find your giving page, then there's a good chance they won't. And unfortunately, a lot of nonprofits make it really hard to do this. So in fact, 17% of organizations made it hard for donors to even locate the give button. So assume that people are going to go to your website and make it really easy for them to donate and find out how to do that. Giving should not feel like an IQ test. Really make it easy. Number 4 on our do's and don'ts is to include metrics in your ask. So people want to know how their gift is going to be used. They want to know that their contribution is making a difference. Yet only 4% of nonprofit websites explain how they use donations. So we're going to change that in your year-end campaign. Because the number one reason people don't donate is because they stop thinking they matter, that their gift doesn't matter. So you need to overcome this by affirming the value of every gift. Tell them how the money will be used. We're raising money to build a new school. We want to support 200 more girls next year. So whatever it is for your organization, how is this money going to be used? And then you can provide impact metrics as part of your ask, either within the message or on the giving page, or even better, both. So what do I mean by impact metrics? You can tell them that $20 will provide a coat to a New Yorker in need. For $100, you can feed 10 shelter dogs for 10 days. Or for $150, we can provide a mammogram for a woman with a high risk of cancer. Whatever your impact metrics are, make sure that you spell them out, again, either on your giving page or on your website or in your communication or on all of them. And not only does this make it really human and personal to know how the money can be used, but it can also boost donations. Oh, for $20 I can buy a coat, but for $50 I can provide a coat for 3 people. I'm going to do that. Might be the mindset. So it's a great way to connect with your donors and encourage them to even often donate a little bit more than they might have been when they came to your giving page. You can also support impact metrics by comparing what a donor's daily expense. So you might say, instead of spending $5 today on an Uber Eats delivery fee or on a pumpkin spice latte, donate that $5 and that same $5, and we can provide 20 warm meals for a child in Uganda. Who wouldn't give up their pumpkin spice latte for 20 warm meals for a child in Uganda? As much as we all love those, it seems like a better swap for that day. So again, making it relatable, emotional, humanized. Number 5 on our to-do list is to say thank you. Something that's so easy that has such a big impact. 80% of donors said they will give again. Just a simple thank you will convince them to give again. And new donors are 4 times more likely to give again if you thank them. So make sure within a few days of the gift, you send everyone a thank you. Now, MobileCause will automatically send a customized thank you message with a tax receipt to every donor. You can craft that thank you to have your logo or a message from your executive director, pictures, a video. So however you are using your software to manage your donations or Excel spreadsheet even, but make sure you're sending a thank you. And the sooner the better. Post on social media. You can thank your donors, tag them if you've gotten permission. You can use first names. You can show pictures. That's another great channel to recognize your donors and their contributions. You can use donor acknowledgments and spotlights in upcoming newsletters. maybe every newsletter you do a little feature on one of your donors with a picture and why it's important for them to give, but mostly you get the opportunity to thank them for their support. Photos with faces get 38% more likes than those without, so the more you can use pictures of donors, you'll get a better engagement with those posts. And as you recognize and thank donors in emails and social media, don't forget to give non-donors another chance to donate. So here they're going to see their list of friends or family or people that you're thanking for their donation. That might spur them to give. Oh, I meant to do that, but I didn't. Or, oh, Patty Joe gave, I should give. So remind them how that there's still time to give, or they still have the opportunity and how to give, because there will be a lot of people who will still do that. At live events, you can incorporate a event thermometer and a donor wall to boost giving and to recognize your donors. So the Mobile Cause event thermometer, we have a couple of features where we can acknowledge individuals at certain giving levels. So when a donation is made at a certain amount that you determine, that name will come up on the thermometer, the donor wall, and be recognized with fireworks or confetti or hearts. And so it encourages people to give at a certain level, and you get the opportunity in the room at the live event to say thank you. We also have a milestone acknowledgement. So at 50%, 75, 99, whatever, again, that you determine you want to acknowledge the great contributions that have been made and celebrate that as the giving continues. We have the countdown clock, so people know there's a sense of urgency, and then obviously the donor wall with the name scrolling. So those are the 5 do's and don'ts to incorporate into your year-end peel. Since we have a little time, I wanted to show you just a couple of case studies of people, clients and customers that we have worked with the Mobile Cause, and what they did on their year-end campaign that might help you with yours. So Prison Entrepreneurship Program, they help fund business plans for incarcerated males so that they can have a business that they're working towards funding and launching. They have done traditional fundraising in the past, but for their year-end strategy last year wanted to incorporate some digital components to their previous traditional methods. So they included text messaging, social media, emails, and online donation forms, and to complement their direct mail. As you can see by the results, they hugely increased the number of donors. They went from 122 to 698. They had a 4-time increase on their digital giving, and they have increased their mobile subscriber numbers, and these are now numbers that they can use to engage with going forward. And one of the things I really like about this campaign is that they had a match program, and they used their donation page to showcase that match program. So you can see at the top, this December, your donation will go twice as far. So they had $180,000 for a match. So it was a 1-to-1 match. So every $100 donated became $200. And they put it right for everybody to see and know that not only was your $100 important, but it was going to become $200. And that's another great way to make sure people tend to increase their donation amount knowing it's going to be matched. The campaign, I'm happy to say, exceeded their expectations all across the board. The Salvation Army of Boise was launching off the season with their Red Kettle Luncheon. You're probably all familiar with the red kettles that will soon be popping up throughout the shopping and holiday season. So they wanted to really put a little jump start to their program and get their giving started early and boost it. So they had a luncheon with their attendees and wanted to grab their attention and get everybody engaged during a busy holiday season So they did text to give at the event. They reached their goal in minutes, and they get to continue to leverage those donors with text updates and how the donation created an impact, other events, and other information regarding the organization. So lastly, I just want to leave you with, as you approach your year-end giving campaign, look at it as a way to connect with your supporters, your donors, by sharing your stories, letting them know they matter, their gift matters, letting them know how their donation will be used, and thanking them for their support. And then continue to keep them engaged in your progress. You'll not only have success with your year-end appeal, you'll also have an engaged long-term donor to take you well into 2019. So best of luck with your year-end appeal. And Alex, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. And thanks for sharing such valuable information with us. As a quick reminder to our audience, if you haven't yet, please submit any questions you may have into the questions box there in the control panel. Now, before we jump into Q&A, let's launch one more quick poll. So if you could, please go ahead and participate in the poll here on your screen and choose from one of the following responses. In response to the question, what are you most interested in trying to help engage donors for your year-end giving campaign? Donor segmentation, creating a special promotion ask, running a multi-channel campaign, sending personal donor thank yous, or perhaps the use of impact metrics in your ask. So make your selection and go ahead and hit submit, and I'll leave this open for another 5 or 10 seconds as we wait for the majority of the audience to participate. Excellent, lots of good responses coming through here. I'll go and close this poll and share the results with you. So just over a third of the audience voted for running a multi-channel campaign, and a good chunk of you also said to use impact metrics and to segment your donors. Awesome. Let's hide that. So let's switch gears for a few minutes, and I'm going to pose a few questions to our speakers. Again, if you have questions for our speakers today, just submit those in the chat. And if we have some time, we'll get to them. There's a number that we'll work through. And our first is for Salvador. Can you give me a few tips for storytelling that may help create real empathy for my cause based on the science that you've shared?
Yeah, I think when it comes to storytelling, it's like a really big word, and I think a lot of people misuse it. All it means is someone going from point A to point B, and some kind of a change happens. So, for example, before you entered the picture, before your nonprofit entered the picture, the people that you're helping, they had a certain life, or they had certain things that they were suffering from, and that's how their life was. A really simple and easy way to make this effective for you is if you take one of those examples of the people that you've helped and you tell the story of what you did and what result that had. Very simple, before and after. That kind of story is going to make people realize, number one, that you can actually cause a result in these people's lives. If you give money, it's just not going to go down the drain. You can actually, have an impact on people. But number two, it's also just really exciting and inspirational to see people's lives get better, who deserve it and who need help. So a simple tip for storytelling, number one, I would say, is focus on before and after. Number two, I'd say focus on your actual, I guess your constituents, or like the people that you're helping, the target demographic you're helping, raise people up and highlight them as those heroes of those stories. And the kind of cool, interesting thing is that actually the hero of the story, while it is that person, is more so the donor, because the donor is able to sort of, reach their hand into the story and give the person something that's going to help them in their life. And they kind of become a hero in that way. So while, yes, you're elevating those people you're helping to be a hero, you're also making the donor a hero. So if you can show the impact of how this donor helped someone, the cause and effect, and then reveal that with a video or a text or image, that's a really great way. I guess one other thing I would say is a lot of storytelling as well is about the future and the kind of world you want to live in. So you could paint a picture saying, do you want this to continue? Do you want these horrible things to continue, or do you want to have a future like this? And you can sort of paint a picture of a life where maybe their disease is eradicated, or kids aren't killed anymore, or whatever cause you're helping, people don't go hungry. You can paint a picture of what the future vision could be like, and do you want to actually have that kind of a vision for you? So that's another key tip there, I would say.
Awesome. Very insightful. Thank you. We have a question here for Christy. I keep hearing about multi-channel campaigns, and I just don't have the time or staff to dig into how to make that all work. Christy, do you have any resources that you might suggest to help in that effort?
Unfortunately, I hear that all too often, that I'm wearing 3 hats. I have so much on my plate. I know I need to do these things. I know they're important, but I just can't get to it all. And we all feel that pain, and it's really frustrating. I know when you know that you're going to have the results, if you can find the time to do that, and it's just impossible on a day-to-day basis. So the nice thing about the digital marketing services team here is that we do a lot of that for you. We can create the campaign. We can set up your giving pages. We can put together communications for you. We can send schedule texts for you. We can even send schedule emails for you if you have constant contact. So we can do a lot of that heavy lifting for you. We'll even give you content, what to post on social media. We'll put together a campaign calendar for you. We can't do the whole campaign for you, but we give you a lot of the key elements to enable you to have some of that time back to really focus on your relationships with the donors, and whether it's recruiting more people to your crowdfunding or your peer-to-peer campaign, or engaging with your board or your high-end donors during this busy time. Other than that, really good calendar and scheduling software tools and organization can really help.
Indeed, and that's a good segue into this next question, which I'll pose to Sal. And of course, there are external tools and resources like MobileCause that you can and should take advantage of. But what may be the best ways to engage and make it easy for my own staff to make year-end appeals on my behalf?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult question because you yourself are so passionate about this cause, and you yourself are working hard, but it's like, how do you actually, number one, motivate other people? How do you also give them the tools to go out there and to accomplish the tasks that you give them? Really build that team and sort of filter that down from the top. So I talk a lot about this in my book on nonprofit crowdfunding explained. 100% I recommend spending some time putting together what I call an education library. So this is an internal, folder where basically you have templates, you have stories, you have images, you have social media templates for what people can share, or emails they can send to their friends, or letters they can send to their friends, or what to even say. And basically you want to build this sort of little educational library. And that way, your staff or the people that are working with you on a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign, they can access that. And if they ever need to share or talk about your cause or your campaign on social media, they can literally copy and paste from that library of templates the images, the link. They know exactly what to say. It really takes a lot of the guesswork out of these projects. And I think when you leave things up to people to sort of do with their own will, some people will be great advocates for your nonprofit, but a lot of other people just don't know where to begin. So you want to try to eliminate the guesswork there. The other thing is more of an emotional component, is that you want to get people amped up and excited. You want to have a team meeting. You want to remind people of the good that they're doing and the impact that they're having on this target demographic, and really get them excited to go out there and share the message with their friends, because it can help so many people. And that really has to come from you, and also being willing to inject a little bit of emotion into that process.
Insightful. Cool. Thanks, Sal. All right. Now, because we're running out of time, I have one more question that I'm going to pose to Christy, and I'll give you some resources for follow-up questions as well. But Christy, our last question today. I don't really have any history to help segment my donors properly. What do you suggest I do to start gathering that information and maybe still use by the end of this year?
I would rather see you segment your donors than not. So I would recommend to use whatever sources you have. So and however you can do it in the easiest way. So if that's by date of donation, if it's by donation amount, probably donation amount is one of the easiest ways, no matter if you're tracking on an Excel spreadsheet, or you have a CRM, or you have fundraising software, you can gather that information. So that's probably the most straightforward way, and figure out what your average donation is. Where is there a logical break? And then segment that into, as I said, I would recommend 3 different pools. If it's easier to get started, get your feet wet, maybe 2, high-end and lower-end donors. If you have the capability to really be more on how they came into your organization, how long they've been involved in the organization or been aware of it, that would be a natural segmentation break, and where you can tailor your communication. But as I said, whatever tools you have and that you can utilize and make it happen is where I would start. Don't get complicated. Don't try to do too much too soon and over complicate it to the point that you don't do it at all. I'd rather see everybody make it a little easier on themselves, get their feet wet, try it, and then figure out how to progress the next campaign with segmentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Christy. And thanks to everyone. I know we didn't get to everyone's questions today, and if those questions have not been answered, please email your questions to marketing@mobilecause.com. We'll keep an eye on that inbox. We want to make sure that that your questions are answered and that our experts are available to assist you, or they are indeed available. So with that said, if what you've heard today interests you, we'd like to encourage you to learn more about Mobile Cause Fundraising Essentials and our plan there, which we're offering at a discounted rate of $2.99 a month. Additionally, we'll be offering the chance to win an Amazon Echo if you fill out the form as you exit today's webinar, just to schedule to attend a Mobile Cause personalized demo before November 30th of this year. That being said, thanks again for attending. Thanks for all the great questions and for your attentiveness. And a huge thanks to our speakers today. And I want to wish everyone a wonderful rest of your week. Bye for now.